This song right here always brings a tear to my eye of just so much pride and joy. People don't know this. Our very own Justin behind the camera here, he actually wrote and scored and performed that entire track there. Every instrument you hear is Justin behind it. Do you believe that?
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah,
They're
right?
talented. They're gifted.
So today, hello, this is another episode of We're Number One, the podcast. Finally an episode or a podcast that states what everyone is in real estate. Number one. And today we are joined by number one guy, Chris Walker with Preferred Real Estate Brokers. Chris, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So you have a history in radio, so I can fully trust that you're going to be rocking the microphone here too. Your voice already sounds really good here, so that's awesome.
Yes,
but
yes,
beyond,
it's 95 degrees outside.
that hit, man. That hit. Can you do a cool like jazz track or something? You know, I love that sound.
Welcome to Start 94.5, Orlando's cool R&B and classic soul.
I'm into it, man. He's doing for my job now, man. That's fantastic. That's so good. But beyond, just having that nice velvety, syrupy sounding voice on radio, you're many things, right? You're a pretty darn good realtor in the area. Do a lot of great things for a lot of wonderful people. You are a man of faith. You're also an author. You're a lot of different things here. So, Chris, you picked the spoke of the wheel. Which one do you want to go down first?
Well, I don't know. Let's talk about author.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah.
So you read a book. How long ago was it the book that you read the book?
I've written 2 books. I'm actually writing my 3rd book right now. That will be out this year.
Nice. And so I know one.
But the first one is Lemons to Lemonade,
Right.
Overcoming Your Past and Winning in the Now.
Okay. So give me the synopsis, the 30-second book talk, if you will.
Well, it's about people who learn how to squeeze purpose out of a sour season in their life. Everybody goes through something and they try to figure out how to get out of it. And some people can't get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wrote this book, to teach, to give an example to people that you can squeeze purpose out of a sour moment.
Absolutely. And they need reminders of that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all hear it, hey, look up, tomorrow's coming. But sometimes when you hear the same thing in the same way, it doesn't really hit and land, So it's great to be able to absorb yourself into a book. Awesome. What was the second book?
Covenant Under Fire.
Covenant Under Fire. Okay, so what's that one about?
What the enemy really wants. Well, I talked about that America is losing its covenant with God.
Okay.
We say in God we trust, but I don't think we do that anymore.
Okay. And
so it's kind of like, covenant under fire. So our values, our moral values, our nation values, it's just kind of under fire right now because everybody's so divided.
I feel like this is amongst the top most polarized the nation's ever really been since,
yes.
It's crazy out there. All right, cool. So it's a very, very interesting topic. What's this up and coming going to be?
This one is called I've Always Had Wings.
I've Always Had Wings.
Embracing Your Hidden Potential.
Hey, I like that.
So one day I was looking at I don't know, I'm kind of a process writer. So when I wrote Lemonade, I was thinking about the process of how lemonade is made. Mm-hmm. And so one day I was looking at a caterpillar and he's crawling on the ground. And I said to myself, nobody's thinking about him, but he understands that there's something on the inside of him that has to come out. So he keeps going.
Right.
We don't see the wings. We just see an ugly caterpillar, but he goes through all of these stages to get to what he was destined to be.
Right.
So when he comes out of the chrysalis, and he emerges, everybody brags on the butterfly. Oh, look how beautiful it is. Oh my God.
Sure.
And in the middle of those wings is a caterpillar who's screaming, I've always had wings.
Right. I love that.
I've always had it, but you just didn't see it yet. But
right.
I had to see it.
And sometimes it takes, much as the caterpillar does, separating yourself from external forces and just again trusting what's inside. Changing your diet,
going to another level.
There you go.
Because he's crawling first, but then he gets to a tree,
right?
And he's eats differently, and then he goes into a hidden season,
right,
where nobody even knows where he's at.
Yep.
And then when he comes out, it's like, oh my God, where has he been?
Right.
Because he was in a hidden season to be transformed into what he was really called to be. And a lot of people are like that. They're just crawling through life saying nobody cares, nobody understands what I'm going through, nobody knows what's on the inside of me.
Sure.
But you got to keep pushing until what is in you comes out.
And that's interesting. So let's talk about that real quick. So people not knowing what's on the inside, sometimes that could be also the person that doesn't feel comfortable presenting it, right? And so they might have a sphere or a network of people, their surroundings, that might be receptive to understanding who you are, what you are, but you may not feel comfortable. So talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, is it more so the environment not receiving, or is it the person or the caterpillar not giving?
Well, it's actually kind of both, because you can also put yourself around people who encourage the potential that's in you because they see it. Because sometimes we don't see it, but other people do, and they can help us get it out. Kind of like when I came to this brokerage, I was going to quit real estate because I was at another brokerage, had sold one house, and when I got my little check that I was excited about, that brokerage took about 60-70% of it.
Lord of mercy.
With brokerage fees and and franchise fees,
right? And tech fee, mentor fee, PCT, CDC, all this stuff.
Yeah, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And I saw other agents crying, and I was like, what's going on here? So when I came to Preferred, I think after about a month, Jose called me to his office, and he's very good at really kind of showing you or helping you to see what your strengths are. And he says, I was on your Facebook, and of course I was like, oh God.
How far back did you scroll, man?
Not that, not that nothing horrible was on there, but
it's still that quiver in the gut.
I am a pastor of a church, and I kind of wanted to go to a job where no one called me pastor. I'm just Chris. I just want to be Chris.
Right.
And so he's like, yeah, you're a pastor. I'm like, yeah, I'm a pastor. And he says, what if I told you that real estate is like having a church? And I'm looking at this guy because I'm thinking, does this guy even know anything about church?
Right.
And he's like, well, when you get up and do your sermon, you have to study your text so that when you get up, people believe that what you're saying. If they believe what you're saying, they buy into the heavenly real estate at the end of the service.
Okay, sure.
And I was like, okay, yeah. And he says, so it's the same thing. If you learn your text and you study and you sound like you know what you're talking about, and you educate people on the process of real estate, they will use you, and you'll be able to sell them real estate.
There you go.
And the light bulb came on, and I became $1 million producer the first year.
There you go.
And I've been a multi-million-dollar producer ever since.
Let's hit that sound button there.
Okay.
That's awesome, man. I mean, that's a celebratory right there.
But he saw it. He saw it in me.
Right.
I was just thinking, oh, this don't work out. I'm just going to go back to the church.
Right.
But he saw it in me, and I'm so glad because it's changed my life. I've been able to build homes and buy the cars I've wanted and travel and provide for my kids and do things and save. I mean, literally, I've saved a ton of money. I mean, a ton.
That's excellent.
Because I've had other streams of income as well.
Sure.
But this has afforded me the life, and then somebody told me 10 years ago that I was going to be in real estate, and I didn't believe them.
Who saw it in you?
A couple of people. One person was a person from church. They kind of what we call prophesied to me and said, hey, God's showed me you're going to be a realtor and you're going to be successful. I'm like, okay, whatever. And the second person I met was a lady named April Rager.
Okay.
So when the housing market crashed in 2008, and people were not giving as much, and the church was kind of struggling somewhat, I made a decision to stop taking a salary so we could stay in the building. And so we had to short sell our house that we had, and my wife found April Rager.
Okay.
I don't know how she found her online somewhere. And she was the one who encouraged me to get into real estate. She says, no, I think you can do it. You've got the personality for it. And I never forgot her. But when I joined that other brokerage and I was telling them the story, they were like smiling at me. The lady smiling. I thought she was flirting at first, but she was just smiling. And she says, let's go upstairs. And
she's really fun.
Yeah. She said, let's go upstairs. I said, okay. And she walks me upstairs, and there on a door that says the April Rager Group. And she says, April, I've got somebody who wants to say hi. And as soon as I walked in, she screamed and said, oh my God, the Lemonade Man. What I didn't know was that April had read my book.
Very cool.
What I also didn't know was that she was teaching my book to the new agents at that
Really?
brokerage.
Wow.
You know, because the title was Overcoming,
Right.
you know, your past. And so she says, "Oh my God, I've been teaching your book and I go to conferences." And she says, "When I sold your house, I was getting ready to quit."
April said this.
She said that. She said, "I
Wow.
was going to quit when I met your wife, and your wife calls me up and says, 'You're supposed to sell our house.'" She said, "Your wife said God said it." And she said, "I thought your wife was crazy." And so she says, but what you didn't know I was going to quit because I wasn't doing good at, she was at Caldwell Banker.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Your deal gave me hope to keep going."
Tremendous.
Now she makes over 25 million in sales.
Yeah, yeah.
So you never know who you're impacting along the way. I was impacting her, but she was impacting me, but she saw the potential of something that I didn't see that somebody else had told me. She was there to reconfirm that this is something you should be looking at.
I love it when people are able to, see something in you, encourage you, and the origin stories of, getting into real estate come from that. That's special because and they're speaking to you. They're seeing something that they were essentially saying that they would react to. Saying, you know what, if you were a realtor, I would probably entertain the idea of working with you, right? Because they see it in you. And sometimes it does take that, I don't know if it's for me. I don't know if I want to do that. And finally something hits, whether it be, divine or just, whatever else you want to call it. It's time.
And the other, I guess, divine part about my story is that 28 years ago, I was married with 2 kids. I was 22 years old. And my ex-wife walked off one day, left us. I got depressed. I ended up homeless with 2 kids, sleeping in the city of Claremont behind Winn-Dixie.
Oh my gosh.
Behind Winn-Dixie with 2 kids. And that's what really the book, chapter 4 in the Lemonade book, is about, that story. And here we are, we fast forward 28, 29 years later. I'm a multi-million-dollar producer in the city I used to be homeless in.
That's a story right there, man. That is some sweet lemonade. That's awesome.
I used to go look at homes, and because I knew they gave out free cookies.
Sure.
And lemonade or punch.
Right.
And I would tell my boys, "Hey, go in here." We would go on Sundays because we were dressed up already.
Yep.
And we would go on Sundays, and I would park my beat up neon, Dodge Neon down the street and walk to the model homes. And we'd walk in, and they would, just get some cookies, get something to drink, and sit down. And I would give my kids that speech: "Don't do anything stupid to embarrass me." And they would ask those questions. "So, Mr. Walker, when are you buying? When do you want to buy?" And I would say, "Soon." Now, soon to them was different soon for me.
Right.
And so I would go through that whole thing and just pretend. And then we would go to the Mercedes dealership and test drive their cars, because back then they didn't get in the car with you.
Yeah.
They just let you go and you come back. And I ended up owning that car. That was the first luxury car I bought. And I remember my kids when they were little and they were in the back seat and they're like, "Daddy, is this our car?" And I said, one day. And I remember driving thinking, I should think that these people were stuck up that drove these Mercedes, but it's the seat that makes you kind of sit up,
Yeah.
And so that's my story. My story, it just all connects the dots, that here's a guy who lost everything he had, lost the place to stay, and lands back in the city.
Sure.
28, 9 years later. And
now that's an incredible story. And this is one of those times too, where, I feel like a lot of times people say, well, if I can do it, you can do it too. Right. But people that are listening to this that might be in a position, and you know what, I think all of us are, I don't think all of us are fully realized yet, no matter where we are. Right. What's some advice you could give somebody to, to go for? Because here's the deal, right? What we just said, I did this. This is some of the struggle that I went through. And we all know that is just the tip of the iceberg, right? Yes. Everything else is under the surface there. But if you hear someone says, last year I was, homeless in my van. Now I'm, the number one, agent or number one actor in Hollywood, or whatever it is, right? If I can do it, you can do it. There's no daily stepping stones. They don't understand that path. And that path seems too great for them. Maybe that person is an anomaly, right? It's not me. I don't believe them. But I do believe that, anyone can become whatever they want. So what are some things on a daily basis that someone could adapt to, find their way forth?
Well, the first thing people got to do is shift mentally.
Shift. Let's talk about shift. Go ahead.
Shifting mentally. I remember going to a church service, and this is when we were homeless, and this is what caused me to shift. The preacher said, problems or promise, it's all how you look at it.
Mm.
That was his title.
Problems or promise?
He said, problems or promise. It's
like
all how you look at it.
Explain that.
You can either look at your situation as a problem, that it's going to stay that way, or you can look at your situation as a promise that it can change. But we have to shift in our mentality. We have to look at, I'm not homeless. I'm just in a temporary situation that can be changed. Because I actually broke into a house in Claremont. Can't go to jail now, but I broke into a house, and we lived in that house because it was abandoned.
Okay.
It was an abandoned house.
All right.
And we slept in that house for 7 months, and nobody knew I was there with my kids.
Wow.
And so I had to shift in there because we were with rats and roaches, and we didn't have clocks, and we didn't know what time it was. Mm-hmm. And I still had to get up and try to figure out, what time it was so I can get to work, because I did have a job. And my kids would say, well, why are we going to bed so early? And I was like, oh, God wants us to go to bed early, I just want to get home so I could see where I was going.
Sure.
Wow.
Okay.
And, but I had to shift that this is not how it's going to be. So what I would do, people would, feel sorry for me. They would put money in my hands, and I would go to the best restaurant, and I would only order an appetizer because that's all we could afford, and we would share it. Mm-hmm. And then I would order 3 glasses of water with lemons.
Lemons. Yeah.
Because they had sugar on the table. Mm-hmm. And I would make our own lemonade. That's what I would do.
Wow.
Because water was free.
Yep.
The restaurants are getting hip now. Like, you want water? Okay.
Right. Sparkling water, still water is going to be $6 no matter what you do. Yeah. Yep.
So we would sit there and share, and we would for that moment feel like we were living a different life.
And I think that's an important thing, because some people could say, well, if you were really that hard up, why would you even spend money going to those restaurants there? But there's something that kind of comes along with it, right? Is when you can give that taste, it's the belief that there is more out there. We're not permanently under this cement ceiling. It's a glass ceiling, mm-hmm. right? And there is beyond.
Right.
Here's where it is. Here's where we can go.
I could have sat there in that abandoned house and felt sorry for myself. That's what I could have did, and just made it worse and played sad songs and, oh, why did she leave us? And, oh, God, what am I going to do? Thank God my grandmother helped me with the boys when I went to work. But, if you're going to shift, sometimes it's going to cost you the last thing you have in order to shift.
Yeah.
So you can't hold on to everything. Sometimes you're going to have to let some stuff go to experience a different environment.
Well said.
And that's what I did. I went to the Mercedes dealership. I test drove their cars. I went to the restaurants and bought an appetizer. It might have been a $10 appetizer, but we shared it. It was just me and 2 little kids. So they didn't eat that much, and then we would go look at multi-million-dollar, $500,000 or $1 million homes in, Windermere and over that way. We would go over that Sand Lake area, and just look at the homes. And so I basically got out of I didn't want my kids, they had just lost their mother, and we didn't know why. Mm-hmm. Just left. I didn't want my kids to have any more to think about than why are we living in this? Okay. Sometimes as parents, we're responsible for making sure they don't feel what we actually feel. Because kids' imaginations are bigger than ours.
Yep.
They think McDonald's was, you were rich.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So I had to make sure that it just wasn't my mind I was shifting. I was shifting my boys' mind. Because when they got in that car, they believed their daddy could own it.
And that's such a powerful thing because as parents, as guardians, who if we have influence over young minds, we sometimes impart things on them that we don't mean to, right? And
Mhm.
so it's these ceilings we put on their mindset of things. And again, it's not saying, "Hey, kid, listen, you're never going to make it this day." It could just be
Mhm.
again the verbiage. And one thing goes back to flying. I flew around, or we moved around as a lot as a kid, right? And
Mhm.
one or two of those moves cross country did involve a flight, first one ever, and walking past, the nice, comfortable seats, and then going back into that kind of like funneled into the tighter
Mhm.
seats. Right. The question is, well, why can't
Mhm.
we sit up here? What's
Mhm.
what? And it goes, well, we can't afford that. No problem there. Nobody's crying, but all right, now we can't afford that, and that stays, with somebody as they grow up.
But how can we
It could have,
afford
yeah, it
that?
could have been, well, just not today, or we're choosing not to sit there today. Okay, now it's a choice. It's not a caste system or something that I'm born
Mhm.
into, kind of thing, right? And so I love that you were able to do that with the kids, and you had that kind of that foresight there, is to say, you know what, here's a taste, because here's the deal. I work with
Mhm.
agents a lot on their goal setting, their business planning, and things of that
Mhm.
nature.
Mhm.
And when we come down to the things they want,
Mhm.
those bucket list items that
Mhm.
are attached, I have them. I encourage them to say,
Mhm.
okay, so great, we know what vacation you want, but I want you to go home, spend 2 hours, and book the entire thing. Only thing I don't want you to do is hit click yet. Okay. So I
Mhm.
want you to know what flights look like, how much they cost. I want you to know what your car
Mhm.
rental situation looks like, what hotel
Mhm.
you're staying at, what excursions you're going, what restaurants you're going to, all that stuff, because it becomes so real
Mhm.
then.
Mhm.
Only thing you're not doing is hit submit payment, because now you have the full scape of what you're going about to
Mhm.
do.
You know, if I could throw a little Bible in here, there's a scripture that says, "Speak those things that are not as though they were."
Hmm.
So sometimes we have to see things as though they are
Right.
before they become.
Right.
And that also was a another shift that I had in this brokerage. We were in the Claremont office, and one day we had I forgot what they call a dream board.
Yeah,
We
sure.
had a dream board
Yep.
day where everybody put their on their board what they wanted, what they wanted to do, and or what they wanted to have as well. And so I can tell you that was about 3 years ago. I remember putting on a boat, and put on trips and places I wanted to go, and I
Hmm.
put on there a new Tahoe because that was my dream truck, and just all this stuff I put on there. Well, half of the stuff I got right now.
Nice.
I'm driving the Tahoe, that I just got last year,
Yeah,
but I had to see it first.
sure.
It was a dream.
Hmm.
And then after I put it on the board and I could see it, now my mind went to, how can I get this?
Yeah.
And that's what it was when I was homeless. I put myself in a nice restaurant with white cloths,
Hmm.
white napkins,
Yep. Yep.
not paper, white
Right.
napkins,
Yep.
white tablecloth on the table.
Mhm.
And we're eating some fries, and some made up lemonade, but we're sitting there being served nicely and made to feel like we were somebody
Right.
for an hour.
Sure.
Then we get in a car that we know we can't afford, but it feels like we can do this.
Sure.
Then we're walking through homes and it feels like we can do this.
Hmm.
I now live in a house that I used to walk through. So if you've got to see it first, it may take 5, 10, 20 years, but you've got to see it and you have to shift in order to see it.
So that's, again, something that doesn't apply just to that profound part of your life. Shift is something that, again, you recognize and you leverage, right? So
Mhm.
we can't have a real estate adjacent podcast in talking about shift without talking
Mhm.
about shifts in the market, right?
Mhm. Oh God.
So Chris, talk to me about what a shift in the market right now means, because listen, I know that you're watching this or listening to this at home or wherever you are, and you've probably scanned by 12 articles just today, right, about so many crazy things, frightful in the media. What the hell is happening in real estate, market, inflation, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
What is happening, Chris?
Ooh, a lot is happening. I get the privilege of being married to a lender. My wife is a lender, and she kind of keeps me up to date of what's going on. And man, there were times where just about every week the rates were going up, and the insight that was given to her as what's coming down the pipe, I'd hear. And so right now it looks a little bleak.
Okay.
Um, And I know some agents are probably concerned about, things are slowing down. A lot of us have clients who said, I'm going to wait because the interest rates are getting too high. They're going to wait because they assume it's going to crash. They're going to wait. Some of us have had clients who started building maybe 7 or 8 months ago. And then because it was time for them to lock their rate in and it's much higher, they canceled contracts. All of us has had that. And we've had to shift. What are we going to do now? Because we don't want to go back to a 9 to 5. We don't want to go back and clock in at a clock because no one's buying homes as much as they were. The frenzy of putting a house up for sale and 20 offers come within the first 3 days is kind of over.
For the time being, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of over.
Yeah.
Now the good thing is we all know, if you've been in real estate long enough, that this is a trend, that what goes up comes back down.
Correct. And, this is the question, or the idea here is, we all know the term perception is reality, right? And so if it's a scary time for the buyer, or, a scary time for the seller to make a move, then that's their reality. The glitch here is that their reality massively impacts the reality of the agent now, because we can't move without them making the move, right? And I am hearing, obviously, because again, the world that I live in and work within, surrounded by agents, and they all have customer bases that are fairly similar to what you just described. But I mean, it's not a bad time to sell. It's just not as freaking crazy or as beneficial, or whatever you want to say it was, as the last 2 years. So yeah, if we compare this to what it was in, pre-2019, so 2018, 2017, this is
the norm.
This is good. I mean, yes. Okay. So a 1% interest rate. I'm so sorry you're like the 5s now, or 4s, or whatever it is. But that's not 15%. That's not 10%. It's still a fine time to make a move, So I think, do you think it really is a scary, horrible time to make a move? Or do you think it's just not as, people are coming back down to earth a little bit?
I think people are coming back down to earth.
Yeah.
They're coming back down to reality, because I actually just listed a house maybe a week ago, and I told the seller, just know that it's not what it was when your neighbor sold, because there's,
4 weeks ago,
my neighbor sold their house and it was gone in 2 days, and I said, well, that was 3 months ago.
Right.
And your reality is more like 30 to 60 days, because I researched all the homes in that area that had sold. And the more we got closer to where we are now, I saw them on the market longer. And longer and longer. And I said, you're just going to have to be patient. It doesn't mean we got to start dropping your price. It just means that when I look at these other homes that have sold, they didn't necessarily drop their prices, but they did wait another 30, 45 or 60 days and it got done. And and you may have to compromise a little bit, as you can't put your foot down and say, well, I've got 6 offers, so bring your best shot. No,
no, and it's funny because we're still seeing those listing agents out there that are carrying that energy and that mentality. And I mean, brother, sister, I'm seeing your days on market go up, 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 up kind of thing, right? And so it is kind of funny to see that. And I think it's both parts. I think it's the listing agent and also the seller.
Well, you got to negotiate.
Yeah,
it's like a person who called me and I put the commission on there, and they wanted a higher commission. And I says, well, I'm willing to go up 2 or 3 points, like 2.3, 2.4, but that's where it's staying, because this person wanted 3%, and I said, well, I'm not even getting 3%, so that's not going to happen. And so reality is setting in with people that things have changed. And the bottom line is they're just stabilizing the economy right now. We don't like it, but that's what they're doing, and it's going to change. The only people who don't get scared of a recession is the people with money,
right?
Because they're sitting by waiting to buy. And this is where they buy, and their wealth comes into play. And then when it goes back up, they make their money and sell.
Always buying the dip, right? That's what they say.
So it's really, it's good and it's bad, but it's really not horrible.
No.
And I had to shift, because one of the things I used to do was credit repair.
Okay.
And that worked well for me for years. I mean, I would enjoy helping people who wanted to buy homes, but maybe they just needed to fix a few things so that they could get the right score to get down payment assistance or get a loan, period.
Okay.
And I've helped a lot of people get into new homes, and I've helped people get 20 to 50,000 in credit the day that they close a new car from the auction in Ocoee. You know, I've shown them how to do all that in one day. That's what I do.
It's a hell of a day.
Yes. And I've got a lot of videos to prove it.
Yeah.
So, but then when the market shifted, the days of the low and mid 200s is over.
Yeah.
You can't get a house, a decent house that you don't have to fix up for less than 300, 350, you know, you're going to start, you know, because now those 250, 280 homes just might need to be painted, may need some flooring, may need something. And so it's not the same as it was before. So my thing was I had to shift because me helping credit repair people, I got a lot of people approved. My wife approved and a lot of them, you know, pre-quals. But we couldn't get them a house because they were being outbidded.
Yeah.
They were being outbidded by, they were FHA.
Mm-hmm.
They were being outbidded and they barely had closing costs. And so that was tough. And I realized I've got to shift to higher numbers. And so I thought about Realtor.com.
Okay. Talk to me about that.
And as a young agent, I would hear the big agents, oh, you know, I sold, you know, closed 5 houses last month, 10 houses. And they would talk about what all they did, but they never said how they were doing it. So we're sitting there thinking, oh, you're just a bad guy. You know, what are you doing to get that? You're telling me what you're selling, but you're not telling me the process.
Right.
Process is you're going to have to invest in yourself. That's one of the shifts. You've got to invest in you. And so I invested into Realtor.com. I bought half of Groveland, half of Mascot, just to see how it would work. Spent about $900 a month. Well, 900 times 12 is like 10,000 and something. The first deal, which was 3 weeks after I signed up, was a $540,000 property. That deal paid not only the whole year, but it gave me a $3,000 profit. So every deal that has come in after that has been all profit.
Nice.
But had I not shifted, and all my numbers of, you know, I'm in the 300,000, 405. I'm between 3 and 5 right now, and I have never been in that bracket. I've always been in the 2s, you know, maybe a 3 here and there, but most have been in 2s. So now it's 3 to 5. You know, now I'm getting leads of 700 and 800,000. And
Nice.
so you have to shift, and part of shifting, there may be a cost to your shift.
Right. Could be financial. Could be.
That sounds like a sermon. I need to write that down.
Write that down, man. Cost of the shift there. But yeah, I mean, that's one of those things too. And so, I mean, really the underlying thing here is shift. And so for you, shift was trying, again, something like buying leads that you had never done before. Right. And that works out for you. Right. In some cases, and some people, it may not being a shift to buying something. It just, the genesis here is trying something new, right? We get into these patterns and grooves. Yeah. You need to add to the machine, add some variety.
Or go back to doing what you used to do that worked.
Absolutely.
Because one of the things that also worked for me, I used to do a lot of Facebook lives. Okay. And educate people on the buying process. What is an inspector? What do they do? And I would interview those people, interview inspectors. Tell people, what do you do? What's important about why they should get an inspection or an appraisal, or, you know. And that was what Jose said to me. He says, you're good behind the camera. You need to use that.
And that's such a great way to go, because, I mean, when you get to sit down with somebody, you feel that connection, you feel the warmth, you get to fall in love with them, trust them, all those great things. It's hard to do that, you know, all the time, everywhere. Right. Video content, social media, it's a party that never stops. It's always accessible. And so now, like you said, if you have the ability to be, you know, have that flow on audio or video, put it out there.
And people would watch.
And that's the thing.
They would watch, and I would get clients. A lot of my clients have come from Facebook Live.
Oh, yeah.
Realtor.com is secondary.
Yep.
Facebook Live, because when I would go, I shifted, and whenever I went to closings, I would video them.
Yeah, I have seen some of that recently.
And I would get their reaction of how it was to work with me and get their story. Let them tell their story. Yep. I get new clients every time I post a video. And so I was just doing that with my phone. But then about a month and a half ago, I shifted again.
And it was noticeable.
I said, let me hire a video company.
Sure.
Maybe they're starting now. They're not too high because, you go to some people, they want $500 per video.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I just need somebody who's good, but yet they're starting out. So I found these two guys and they were like, we can do $150 per video. And I thought to myself, well, that's not bad. It's almost like a little piece of your commission, for marketing.
That's well worth it, dude. Yeah.
So now when I have a closing, they follow me. They get me getting out of my truck. They get me walking in the building with the people. We're conversating. We're sitting at the closing table and they're signing documents and this whole video, it's like a video story is playing. And then you're hearing them talk about their journey with buying a home.
Right.
And so that has worked very well for me because I've gotten more people or people will call me and say, hey, that was my cousin you helped.
Yeah. Because you're tapping into their sphere as well. There's a good chance they also have social media. And now all of a sudden, boom, you're in front of their people. Here they are. So again, so if I'm a friend or affiliate of whoever it was that you just helped, I see that on their social media. Now I see, okay, so there's this guy, realtor. Okay, can I trust him? But if I see my friends, family, or affiliates being done right by you, then you could have the best script in the world, call me on the phone or whatever it is. It's only going to go so far. But if I see, mom, cousin, whoever it
classmate.
Is, have basically setting the testimonial stage for you, then that's going to beat it all day. And so I guess that shift was noticeable. Those videos do really, really well. I was going to ask if you want to give them a shout out, but for $150, I could understand too if you want to keep them in your pocket right now as well, man.
Well, it's First Media,
Yeah, they do a good job,
guys, but so yeah, like you said, telling your testimony. And why do we buy products? Because somebody
all testimony. It's what it comes down to.
Why do we go to the barbershop we go to? Because somebody told us about the guy.
It's a refer. Yeah.
The nail salon that you go to, the hairdresser, the clothing store.
How many hours online do you scrutinize going over the 5 stars or 4 stars or 1-star hotel with this? You got to go through
Airbnb,
all of that stuff.
When we go to look for an Airbnb, the first thing we look at is what? The reviews.
I see the 5-star and also who the 1-stars were, right? If the 1-stars are more emotional, whatever, then okay, maybe. But if they're like, yeah, there were rats and this place was falling apart, and like, okay, maybe this is
yeah, but it's everything is about testimonies. And so that's why it works, because they're telling you their testimony of their journey, how you helped them and who you were. Now it makes people look at you, because the townhouse that I just closed in Story Lake, that was 540. Well, that was a referral from a client that bought a new house from me. And they worked for Westgate, not Westgate, Hilton Timeshare. And these people were visiting from Ohio. And so that client told them about me.
Nice.
And now it just closed with them.
Nice.
So now they're saying, we want to get another investment property, because they don't live here. They're not going to live here. They bought a timeshare that was already a 4.9, not timeshare, but they bought an Airbnb that was already 4.9, over 250 reviews and bookings up to October. A unit that made $4,000 to $7,000 a month.
And see that, that's powerful right there. So when someone can share their story of what it was like to work with you and what you helped them uncover, and it could be along the lines of their first time, buying their first place, right? Or it could be buying their first investment piece, right? And those are two major firsts in somebody's life. When you're watching on the outside, you see the success of these people. Sometimes you look at that and say, you know what? I don't deserve that in some way. Or that's just not me. That's not my family. That's not who we are to be, landlords or, investment people. You don't see yourself in that. But when you can hear, this is the important part, we can hear the stories of those and say, yeah, I'm a first time buyer. I'm a first time owner of this investment piece. I broke the cycle of my family or whatever it is. Here's a story. Here's how it happened. And here's who helped me with it. That becomes something completely different in itself. And
I even recently thought about another shift for me is that we all have old clients that built some nice homes. And I'm going to go back and film 2 of my clients that were nice property. Not that they all wasn't nice properties, but one was on an island.
That's pretty cool.
And I didn't know it existed in Lake County, called Treasure Island.
Okay.
And so I represented the seller and the buyer at both sides. And so the guy who bought it is remodeling the home as we speak. It's sitting on the largest lake in Lake County.
That's awesome.
So when he's done, he's going to let me film the house. And I've already got it in my head, you know, that I'm going to be in front of the house and say, have you ever wanted to live on an island in Lake County?
Special place called Treasure Island.
let me show you how. Drone goes up over the house, over the lake and the whole peninsula. Then it comes back, you know, boom.
Yeah, man.
I got another guy who bought a 14-acre farm in Groveland with a house. Beautiful piece of property. That was the Realtor.com first deal I got. It was a 14-acre farm.
Right.
Well, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take that drone crew, video crew to that farm and say, and get out of my truck with a plaid shirt on.
There you go. Fit in the part.
And say, hey, have you ever wanted to live on a farm? Let me show you. Boom. You know?
That's cool, man.
So I'm thinking about shifting on stuff I've done before already.
That's great. That's wonderful.
And sometimes you have to do that because a lot of y'all got some clients out there that were some good things.
Yeah.
Go back to those people.
Absolutely. I mean, when people are like, well, yeah, I know how to work my database, but that's working it differently, right? It's more than just showing up and doing an event, you know, some pies around Thanksgiving time, which is all nice, but it's kind of cool to kind of to do a where are they now kind of thing, right? And so, and if it opens the doors up for more people that want to have that, you know, rural farm lifestyle or private island living kind of thing, it also just gives you the ability to check in with those customers that worked out well before. If they love where they're at, then hey, great. If they hated it, and say, well, hey, guess what? Let's get let's get you out of here.
But see, it's also a marketing piece because my thought process of doing it was for, I want more clients like that.
Absolutely.
So if I can have a video or do a mail out with a YouTube link to show them I've sold what you have before. So take a look at what I can do.
Yep. That's
what
powerful
I can bring
right
to
there.
the table. Boom. Now I can get more 14, 20 acre people who want to sell, more people who live on an island because the guy's done it already.
Yep. That's power right there, man. That's power. So we've talked about shift professionally. We've talked about shift personally. We've talked about shift in the market. I mean, that's a lot to unpack right there that I think you did a pretty expert job of explaining there, man. Chris, you know, what are some things? I mean, if you just leave the audience out there, whether it be watching visually or just listening through the podcast here, what are some things that they just need to know about real estate going forward in the next few months or the rest of the year?
Well, you know, just know that real estate, you know, although it's changing, there's still deals out there.
Sure.
There's still people out there that want to sell. There are still people who want to buy. And if you educate them, they will buy now versus move and being scared. Because, you know, one of the things I tell people is, hey, you can refinance.
Yeah.
You know, the market's going to go down. It goes up and down, up and down. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it goes. And so you get it now. If you can handle that, then, you know, in a year or so, you can refinance when things, you know, stabilize. We're just in a stabilization right now. So I would just tell people, you know, just educate people. If you educate people, they'll get off the fence.
And that's driving it home right there, is that, I mean, education, right? But it has to be able to be received as pure education. A lot of times it's really easy to kind of clip the data to make it the education you want to put out there to benefit from it, right? But when the audience, when the world can understand you as someone educating them as a consumer advocate, if you will, right? So here's the good, the bad, the ugly, the truth, right? That's when they might say, you know what? It doesn't make sense for me right now, but when it does, I'm 100% going with this person because I believe them from day one.
And sound like you care.
Yeah.
That you care more about their transition than your transaction.
Boom. I knew. I was hoping you were going to follow up with that word. Like, yes, stuck the landing. Absolutely. That's beautiful.
You care more about their transition than your transaction.
Yep.
Because a lot of times, you know, I got to get this commission check because I got bills to pay.
Right.
Well, I've never operated with that mindset because one, I've always had another stream.
Sure.
Because if you operate in that mindset, then you'll be more about getting the deal done versus making sure that the person understands that you really are there for their next transition in life. And guess what? Those people are going to call you back.
That's right.
Because a lot of them call me for their family, their friends, I really hadn't to buy any leads because I was still selling. I went to Realtor.com to shift to a higher sales bracket because I said, well, if I'm going to work this hard, I might as well, get higher deals.
Right.
So, that's the greatest thing I could leave with people. Just educate people, care, know that there's ups and downs. Save.
You said it like a father right there.
Save.
Please.
Save. If you don't save, then you will always be in trouble when the market slows down or sales slow down for you. Mm-hmm. When COVID first hit in 2020, I didn't sell one house the first 4 months of the year. Not one, but I was working as if I was. Mm-hmm. And so when May came, I made $25,000 off of 2 deals because I sold 2 homes that had a 3% commission and a $5,000 bonus.
Nice.
That's when I went and got my truck. So, and after that, I was having those months where it was 20 or 15 or so, but I saved. I don't live beyond my means. You have to save and put money away because you got to pay tax. I got a CPA.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to try to play I'll pay them later.
Right.
I'll get to that. No, that's how we get in trouble.
Yeah.
I have a CPA. She's only $75 a month. And I give her my folder, my receipts. She takes care of what needs to be taken care of her. And when I pay myself, I text her and say, hey, I just paid myself this. And she takes care of Uncle Sam.
Nice.
So I don't have to worry about that.
That's a huge relief right there.
It's worth it. So, there's just certain things that we need to do to shift so that, our business is taken care of, because this is a business. Mm-hmm. You're not just an agent.
Right.
You're running a business.
You're your own small business, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, whether and I mean, I think what people do in their mind is say, well, I'm not a high-powered agent, so I shouldn't worry about that. Well, you won't become one unless you start worried about that.
Right.
Because I don't sell $2-3 million a month like some agents in this office. I mean, I would love to find out how they're doing that. But I'm doing what I'm doing on my level until it grows.
Right.
That I had to take responsibility and shift for my own business. Say, okay, what can I do? Invest in me, invest in your health, invest in your image, get new business cards.
Yeah. Level up. And again, like we've been saying this entire time.
Get around people and talk to people who are doing more than you to find out what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then to see how you can do it. I love going to Mike Ferry's events and different places just to hear what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. And it's powerful because, again, you have to immerse yourself in new things to keep relevant, right? And to do right by the people that are trusting you. It always is. And for those that don't think it is, they've got their stuff figured out, then they're going to be left behind.
I'm 50 years old. I just turned 50 in September. And I know that's not old in some people's minds. Of course, my kids tell me I'm old. But
kids will always tell you no matter what, man.
But I'm already shifting my mind now that, okay, I have a 5-year plan, my wife and I, that we want to do $200K between the both of us, between the real estate and the mortgages, closings, a year for the next 5 years. Live off of less than half of it.
Nice.
Save the rest of it.
Yep.
And in between now and 5 years, buy a couple of Airbnbs, a couple of rental properties. So by the time we're 55, we'd like to command about $10,000 or $15,000 a month in rental income.
That's great.
So that we're comfortable, because at some point I'm not going to have this, this hustle
right
in me to do what I'm doing now, or I'm going to end up behind a desk at a builder's office working on Sunday.
Yeah. Yep. Instead of preaching on Sunday. Well, Chris, I think you did a wonderful job out there, giving some people some great things to think about, again, whether it be interpersonally or about what they could do in real estate. And I think all roads lead back to you when it comes to that in that sphere there. So, Chris, how do they get in touch with you when it comes to, if I want to buy your book, if I want to have a great lemonade recipe, or if I want to know some good old fashioned real estate advice, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, if you want to buy a book, you can go on Amazon.com and just put in Christopher L. Walker, either Lemons to Lemonade or Covenant Under Fire. And you can get the books there. Both of them are Reader's Choice winners.
Nice.
And of course, the third book isn't out yet, but it will be out sometime this year. And of course, if you want to call me, 352-321-2930. And if you are looking for a great agent, look no further. I am here. I'll even work for other agents that need a realtor. So I'm just kidding.
There you go. A double one there. That's awesome, man. Well, again, Chris, thank you so much for being on the show today. You did a wonderful job. Thank you so much for being a part of a Preferred Real Estate Brokers. And man, we got to say it like the show says, you're number one. Appreciate it a lot. Have a great day, guys.
Oh, yeah.